Thanks for joining me today. I'm here to talk about the Lydia collection with you. I've got my blueberry pomegranate tea, and I hope you have yours. We're in my office today. You can see Kitty has joined us. This is my writing office and craft room, and hopefully it'll be quiet. The boys are home downstairs, so they've been making some weird background noise. But I think they'll be settling into watching the Olympics, which I hope to do more of. I'd really like to catch the skating. And so, the Lydia collection. This series, I had just written 3 books when I started it. And I put a lot of heart and soul into them. I really, as an author, didn't know a whole lot about what I was doing as far as writing a series. But I knew that the Lord had given me the idea to write for missions, like Lydia in the New Testament, who gave to Paul and Barnabas to keep them on the road, spreading the gospel. And recently we were able to give our biggest check yet to missions. So I know it's been the Lord helping me all the way, and this has just been His thing. So, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just had this idea for this collection of books. I kept seeing series that readers could buy, but I saw a need for a collection of books that readers could read in any order and not have to worry about if they missed book 1 and they didn't know the characters in the story. So that was my inspiration, was to write a series that did not need to be read in necessarily a certain order in order to keep up and follow along. So there's 3 books in the collection. The Redemption of Lady Georgiana is the first one, and Protecting Miss Jenna is the second one. Actually has a new cover on it now. If you can see that plantation right there on the back is the cover, the new cover that the book has. And Persecution and Providence is the 3rd book in the collection. And I loved this cover because there's a bustle on the dress. And it's hard to find dresses with bustles. But it is historical romance and clean and wholesome, Christian and inspirational. And you can read them in any order. The overall theme in the series really is redemption, and it's just about very strong women serving the Lord at any cost, and the men who love them. So the heroes are strong and the women are strong, but the women have endured great loss. And I have been told by several readers that they've experienced loss recovery in the reading of some of these books. So a little bit more about each one. The Redemption of Lady Georgiana. I like to call it my modern day Ruth story of Regency proportions, because I took the story of Ruth and Boaz and just kind of picked it up, changed all the names, but you'll be able to identify and relate to many of the characters from that Bible story, which is known as the greatest love story of all time. And I just took that idea and dropped it into a Regency setting. So it's a wonderful story, and it is a story that is filled with themes of kindness and redemption. There are many French phrases in the story and their translations, and the whole story takes place in the French Alps. and the county of Essex in England. It's truly a romantic story, but here more and more elements of humor are starting to come out, and one reader calls it a page turner. It does have a spotlight on John Wesley, and Georgiana obviously is the heroine, and she is going to accept an invitation to be a governess for a count, and for an earl in Essex. And then it is perma-free, the Kindle version or ebook versions, and it's on many platforms. So you can go to any bookstore and ask them to order it for you, and they will. But the next story is Protecting Miss Jenna, and this is a pre-Civil War antebellum era story. Abe Lincoln makes several guest appearances in it. That was so much fun to write because it'd be like, just if you could imagine if he were here right now, what would he say to you? What would he be doing? So there are several scenes where he makes a guest appearance in the story, and it was just very fun to incorporate that into the book and to do that with the readers. So at one point, Jen is at a ball, and Abe Lincoln is there. She's young, and he hasn't become president yet. So the whole scene is based on some of the events that were taking place leading up to the Civil War. And at this point, Jen is very aware of it, but he's talking to her, and she's sharing with him some things that are going on in the family as a result of this conflict that's playing out in America. So it was interesting to write that scene. And her father is an abolitionist. Jenna herself is a teacher in the story from Oberlin University, which is one of the first universities to accept women students at that time in America. And so obviously there's a strong anti-slavery theme and forgiveness also in the story. I had just done a tremendous amount of research in the writing of it, and it is a fictitious story, but it is based loosely on real life events that I uncovered in my research. And Harriet Beecher Stowe obviously had written Uncle Tom's Cabin, and so many of the things that I learned from researching about her, and things that were going on that she brought to light for Americans. Really, that's just a big part of my heart in the story. And then there are some interesting characters, Jolly and Gardenia. They were just amazing to write about. Jolly's like the poor boy going to school, and Gardenia is kind of like the plantation's owner's daughter. So these were really fun characters to write about. And I did tour some plantations in the area in writing this story, including Farmington House, where Abraham Lincoln stayed when he visited his friend Joshua Speed. And so that was extremely interesting to incorporate much of this research into the story. And I do call Wade Taylor kind of a renegade, but only in the sense that he's a Southern gentleman against slavery. So that brings us to Persecution in Providence. This is a wonderful mail-order bride story, and it has a parody style beginning with kind of a Jane Austen twist to it. And it's really Chelsea and Braden's love story. And the theme is about the transforming work of the Holy Spirit. And there is a spotlight on Fanny Crosby in the book. And the heroine, Chelsea, she flees a rogue and a titled wealthy rogue after really listening to the Lord and deciding to become a mail order bride to an Irish farmer who is a preacher in Kentucky. He's a widower and he has children, and so she flees this rogue. He's titled and wealthy, but he's basically a rogue. And the book has a secondary theme of, the redemption of this rogue. And there are animals and stepchildren, and it's a small Kentucky town. And some of the book starts out in England, but it ends up in Kentucky, as many of my books do, or vice versa in some cases. But the heroine, she's learning to cook and clean for the first time, and she can make like 3 things when she gets there. So there's a lot of humor. The hero can make pancakes. That's about it. And there's a protagonist in the book named Maggie, and my research led me to the development of Uncle Trenton in the story, and there's quite a bit about the last of the fur trade days and an emporium and things like that in the story that make it very rich and interesting. So that's a little bit about each of the 3 books in the series, and I hope you enjoy them. And the proceeds do go to help with missions, and each book is very different from the others in the collection. And thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.